It's about that time to grab your favorite snack and sit back and relax, because you are now listening to the Movie Time podcast with your hosts, LOWKEY Geek Renee Zalata and Blake the Wolf. Take it away, boys.
Hey, what's up, everybody? As you can see, I am totally not in my usual spot right now, and I am once again solo. Apologies for the delay of this episode. This episode is going up a couple of days later than usual, mainly because of scheduling conflicts and things like that. Speaking of scheduling conflicts, Blake is not joining me this week. I'm hoping to have him back again in the next episode so that we can finally talk about Poor Things, which was originally on the docket to talk about this week in this episode. But unfortunately, that's a conversation I really want to have with him. If you want to hear my initial reaction and thoughts when I saw it from New York Film Festival, I recorded my reactions and thoughts on it much later. I actually recorded this last week in anticipation of the film coming out. So if you want to catch that and see that, go to the YouTube channel and you can find out what my initial thoughts are on Poor Things and my overall reaction to the film. But for this week, I decided, let's have a more calm and chilled kind of episode here. And I'm going to be talking about two Netflix movies, one that just came out over this past weekend, and one that came out a couple of weeks ago that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. And that will be Leave the World Behind, the new Netflix film directed by Sam Esmail. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Esmail, yeah, Sam Esmail. And then The Killer. So we have a Fincher double feature here. So The Killer by David Fincher and Taika Waititi's Next Goal Wins, by Taika Waititi. Like I said, this is a very chilled, laid-back type of episode here, as I'm just relaxing in the spot where I usually watch my movies at home and all that. So for those of you who may be watching a clip out on the YouTube channel there, you'll see a different, a more chilled me. Not that I'm not chill already, but, just a more relaxed kind of, I just want to shoot the shit with all of you guys and talk about movies and some of the things I saw recently. And also, plus my computer's busy processing another video I'm working on and all that. So technical mumbo jumbo out of the way. Anyway, before I get into all that stuff, there are documentaries that I love watching on throughout the year. Recently, I saw Still, finally, the Michael J. Fox documentary on Apple TV Plus, which was mixed emotions on that one. One, I grew up with Michael J. Fox in the 80s. Back to the Future is one of my all-time favorite movies. I used to love watching Family Ties. For me, at that age growing up, that was must-watch TV. It was like Family Ties, The Cosby Show, all that stuff. So that was definitely on my watch list every week. And plus, Michael J. Fox was everywhere. I remember Teen Wolf. I remember Secret of My Success. Like all those things that he was involved in. So he was a main part of my childhood growing up. So seeing how he was back then, his transformation and dealing with Parkinson's and all that stuff, it was very sad, but also heartwarming and uplifting, especially the way he's been handling his life moving forward and now. So it was really, really great to see. But I had a chance to check out a new documentary called A Disturbance in the Force, how the Star Wars Holiday Special happened. It's a long title, but it's a subject matter that I hold very dear to my heart. Not because I was able to watch this as it aired on TV. It came out the year I was born. I was still too young to even like know what Star Wars was. But it was one of those fabled lost media things that happened that was hovering around when I was a kid. The term lost media is very known now on the YouTube space and in the internet and all that, which talks about certain things that are just lost in time, but really happened. Now, the Star Wars Holiday Special is one of those things, but now you could do a YouTube search and you could see numerous uploads of this special because there were some individuals that were able to record this on VHS at the time. And that's how I originally saw it when I used to tour a lot of the local comic book conventions and all that here in New York City. This was before the whole New York Comic Con phenomenon that we have now that's taking place every year at the Jacob Javits Center and all. But, comic book conventions used to be held at hotels, like the Hotel Pennsylvania, the Sheraton. Those are like the two main hotels that used to have comic book conventions back in the day when I was growing up. And I used to remember I would peruse down, all the vendors and all that. And I would always come across this VHS clamshell case of a bootleg of the holiday special. And one day I decided to buy it. And that's how I finally got to see this weird monstrosity of a holiday special based off of a IP that I was extremely fond of that had stars from the movie in it. So if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, then this is why this documentary was made. And it was so well done. They had a lot of your talking heads from the geek pop culture nation. You had your Kevin Smiths, your Seth Greens, all that kind of all those people. Patton Oswalt talking about his memories, their memories of the holiday special and the significance it is in Star Wars lore, pop culture history, and all that stuff. They even had Gilbert Gottfried in it, and R.I.P. It's probably one of the last times you get to see Gottfried talk about anything and on camera. So I thought that was actually very special. But yeah, it just brings to light again the time period and what led to the creation, the behind the scenes of the creating of this, which I'm sure have been retold and documented in several other forms of media, whether it's like biographies or kind of the history of Star Wars or all that kind of stuff like that. But for those of you who don't know, it is a great insight on how all of that came to be and everything. And to this day, there's still not an official release of this holiday special. I don't think we'll ever see one, but it is something worth checking out if you have a chance to. It's available on demand right now. I was lucky enough to get a screener for it, and you can see I'm going to be uploading a more extensive review of the documentary on the YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out when that's uploaded and all. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. But moving on, let's talk about Leave the World Behind. So going into this movie, I knew very little about it. I knew it was kind of another apocalyptic type of movie premise, but it was the cast that really drew me into it. It was Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, you have Ethan Hawke, and Kevin Bacon. Great cast, ensemble cast. I was like, wow, I have to check this out. And to get this out of the way, the performances were phenomenal. I mean, Mahershala, he's been very picky lately with a lot of his roles. I know the whole Blade situation is happening and, the controversy behind all that. I hope they can get that really sorted out, and because I think he'll be a great addition to the MCU whenever that happens. But he's a great actor overall, and he was so good in this film. Julia Roberts. Now, I can't recall the last time I actually watched a Julia Roberts film. It's been a while. And in recent outings of her stuff that I've seen, I was okay. It wasn't anything to write home about for me. I think this is one of the best performances she's given in quite some time, in my opinion. And out of all the things that I've seen recently of hers, which is not a lot. So, I mean, if you are more versed in Julia Roberts, you may have a different take on this, but I thought this was a great performance from Julia Roberts that I have seen in some time. I love her character, how she's like this advertising person. I can relate to that because I used to work in advertising. But she's basically a likable Karen. She plays this Karen because she hates everybody. She hates people. She complains about everything. She's paranoid about everything. And she's kind of one of those, persons that always kind of want to get her way and want people to always side with her whenever she decides the things. You could tell that even the way she runs the family. It was her idea to go on a vacation, to take a weekend getaway because, she wanted an escape from the city and all that, an escape from the people. She had this great opening, which was kind of pretty much centered around her. Ethan Hawke plays her husband, and he's there too. But it basically centers around her, and it's like how she's packing for this trip that she planned for the family to get away from it all. And she's looking out the window. And she does like this little soliloquy about humans and people and going about things, and the beauty of it all. And then how it quickly does a 180. She's like, but then I remember how much I fucking hate people. What a fucking opening! And it pretty much properly sets the tone of what to expect from this movie. It's a great performance. And Ethan Hawke was Ethan Hawke, kind of playing this, kind of zaddy-like character, which was interesting. And Kevin Bacon playing I guess you could kind of call him the doomsdayer, kind of over-preparer. I could easily see him as like a huge right winger and all that stuff like that. One of those people that you expect to be fully prepared anytime something goes wrong in America, and also someone you probably don't want to mess with, right? So great performance all around. But for the movie itself, now I'm not familiar with Sam's work. I know he was very much responsible for Mr. Robot, which is a show that I never really watched. But it was a phenomenon at the time. And, it was kind of what brought to light Rami Malek, to a lot of our eyes and all that. But I knew kind of the concept and premises behind his show, which dealt a lot with like cyber terrorism, cyber, attacks, technology and society and reality and all that kind of stuff like that. And this is one of those apocalyptic type of movies that really plays heavily into that, which in a way made it more scary because it really touched home. It hit home in a lot of in a many different ways, as far as reliance on technology, the threats of technology when it comes to certain situations, how it could be used against us, especially in government and world affairs and all that. So this is one of those things that really tapped into a lot of those things, which I thought was very interesting to really see play out in this type of format, right? And the way the movie kind of is edited and put out there, it can be easily kind of compared to like an M. Night Shyamalan type of movie, maybe James Gunn in a certain way. But I love these like new directors that are very punchy with their editing and very punchy with their cinematography and being a little bit more artistic in the ways that they do certain things. And this film had a lot of that. The cinematography was so well done in this film. I really, really enjoyed a lot of the camera choices, the transitions, the punchiness of a lot of like the impactfulness. There were a lot of moments of pure kind of anxiety when it comes to certain moments. There was this great 1-2 punch that they had going on with Julia Roberts and the daughter of Mahershala Ali's character, played by a great actress. I'm forgetting her name right now, so forgive me. But they were going through a certain scenario. at the same time that Mahershala, Ethan Hawke were going on another scenario with Kevin Bacon. It's like a Mexican standoff happening here, a threat with nature happening in another sense, and the back and forth and how they were playing on each other, kind of in a way like a symphony of terror, a symphony of anxiety. So well done, and we had a lot of moments of that here throughout the film. And I think just the way it was edited and directed and the cinematography was done was so good. Story itself was brilliant. I thought it was really really brilliant how, you have this event that happens and you don't know what to believe as to what's happening, because the first thing that goes is technology, right? So no one can have access to their cell phones, the TVs are down, no one can access the internet, and all that, and then you're just going off of hearsay or things like that, or little snippets, right? And it really explores how technology can backfire in situations like this, and then how and a lot of like different forms of media have already explored the human element of it all, right? How can people trust each other, especially with their standing beliefs? Like I said, Julia Roberts has her own way of believing things, her trust in people, which is very similar to Knock at the Cabin, kind of same situation where the two dads were debating about humanity and whether or not they should believe in humanity anymore because of how humanity has treated them. In a way, she kind of is going through her own similar thing of like just how she's dealing with people. She works in advertising, so she knows how shady people can be in order to sell things, to sell a belief. And just a lot of those things is one of the main reasons why I got out of advertising, because of all that. So it definitely plays along with all that. But this is done just in its own way, and how it plays again with technology and how that affects people, how it skews people's beliefs and what's out there. But the overall number one theme of this is how us as people view these things that are happening around us and how we react to it, right? And what I mean by that is like, here I was over the weekend watching this thing on Netflix, escaping the real world in a way. And a lot of us do that. We go to movies, we watch shows, we binge things to escape reality sometimes, right? It's one of the more common things that we do to cope and escape from stresses from work, stresses from the news, stresses on economic pressures and all that stuff like that. And how we escape. Some of us go to the gym. Some of us, like Julia Roberts, would want to escape reality by taking a vacation, weekend getaway, drive somewhere, all that stuff. But many of us, we go to media, and we will go on YouTube, or we'll watch Netflix, or we'll go to the movies. And this one reoccurring theme revolves around the daughter of the family, of Julia Roberts' family. And how when all of this goes down, her main stress is that she can't finally watch the finale to Friends, because she's been binge watching Friends recently before the family went on the vacation. And that's like her number one concern. There's all these things happening around it where all of a sudden their vacation home was interrupted because the owners decided to come back because of what's happening out there. That's Mahershala and his daughter. You have this weird nature event where all of these deer are now showing up out of nowhere. You have the stuff that's happening around them in the world with technology shutting down, no access to phones, news, internet, all that stuff. But her main stress is that she can't watch the finale to Friends. And there's this conversation she has with her brother, and because the brother can't understand, like, well, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is this such a big deal? And she says it perfectly, where she's like, because watching them makes me happy. It kind of, so in a way she's saying, like, from all this bullshit that happens in the world around us, watching these group of people living their fantasy life, right, which is not realistic at all. especially during that time when it came out. It's like a time that, is captured in this moment of a series, right? The daughter of Mahershala even mentions that in the movie, where how you could look back on that time when Friends came out, which so many people watched. I didn't watch it, but my girlfriend at the time was like invested in that series. A lot of people were, but it was like a time that felt like it's such a long time ago. It's like a different reality compared to where we are now, right? But it's a reality, and it's a series that people escape with. Kind of like how I love watching The Office when I need to kind of escape from things or I need to distress myself. A lot of people watch Seinfeld, right? So, but I know a lot of people watch Friends. And she says this is her way to escape because this is the one source that makes her truly happy. And when the climax really happens at the end of the movie, where we finally realize what is truly happening, you know, when and freaking why does New York always have to be the brunt of attacks and things like that, right? It's so unfair, especially me living here and all that. Like I've seen it all. I've been through 9/11, the blackouts, all that stuff, COVID, right? Why is New York always a central, thing where we always have to be the attack center or whatever the case is? But as the climax happens, it was hinted that a neighbor of theirs, built a bunker, for situations like this, and the daughter actually happens to come across it and finds it. And she, as she switches the light, everything turns on. She is now enthralled because, like me, that you probably can't see all of it off camera, I have a wall of DVDs and Blu-rays. Physical media forever, baby. Because when the internet goes down and you need a form of entertainment and you at least have electricity, physical media is the way to go. And that's why I still support physical media to this day. She finds that this wall of DVDs, there is a collection of Friends, and she has the final season of Friends. Finds the DVD pops in that last DVD, hits the last episode, the Friends theme kicks in, and that's the end of the movie. And there she found her happy place. That was her number one saving grace, right? And it speaks to a lot of us. It's so poignant, right? How many times have you found yourself like just, you read something in the news, or you are so stressed out because you're looking at all your bills and you're trying to figure out, how am I going to pay for all this? Or you had a bad day at work, right? You fought with a friend of yours. You broke up with a girlfriend, or you had an argument with your wife or husband. And you need a form of escape. And how many times have a lot of us just sat down in front of the TV, popped in a movie, or, went back and rewatched an episode of Saved by the Bell or whatever the case is, left the house, went to the theater, watched the movie, or if you're home also, popped in a video game and started playing for like an hour or two. How many of us have done that, right? And I loved how this was like really an occurring theme in this movie, because in a way, this is how we leave the world behind us. This is how we escape. Like I said, many of us out there are like Julia Roberts' character. We want to escape by going somewhere, going to the beach, taking a trip to Cancun, right? Travel the world, go to the Hamptons, go to the Catskills for a weekend, if you're here in New York, Bear Mountain, whatever the case, the Poconos, right? Or if you're like me, go to the theater, watch a movie, walk around a museum, play a video game, pop in Netflix or whatever. So many of us do similar things because this is how I personally leave the world behind me, even just for a brief moment. And that's what made this movie brilliant. I mean, it had its problems. It wasn't a perfect movie, but it was damn entertaining. It really was. And the problems, when I say problems, it's just so minuscule stuff. It's like some character choices. Like, I didn't like the whole thing about Julia Roberts and Mahershala kind of like having a little like a fling flirtation. Like I felt that was so cliche. You know, the daughter of Marshall kind of annoyed me too, but she does represent a voice that's out there in reality and society right now. You know, Ethan Hawke's character was sometimes a little bit very blasé and weak. You know, um, so there were like certain character choices that, even though can be relatable to real life characters and real life situations and moments, for me, I didn't. I just think some of that didn't work in the film overall. But again, those were just minor things. But at the end of the day, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. I did heart it. And I guess those little things bothered me enough that it took away that 1 star. But still, 4 stars for me, if you know me by now, is very strong. 5 stars is not, doesn't happen a lot unless it's a real like banger of a film, right? And for me, I felt nothing was wrong with it. I know I get a lot of criticism from Blake on my rating systems and all that, but for now, I stand by my 4 out of 5 star rating on this film. It's definitely one of those films that will could possibly make my best of the year list when we do that. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought it was really good. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, or for those of you who have seen it, one tip: if you missed it, you missed it. But it's something to catch that I noticed right away, because it was something that I was wondering, why are they like spending a lot of time on this. In the background, there's this one painting in the main living room of the vacation house, and you'll notice that the image of the painting changes throughout the movie. Now it's interesting because of what Mahershala's character does. He hints that he works with a lot of like finance and stock markets and looking at algorithms and all that stuff like that. When Julia Roberts and her family make it to the house for the first time, you see her in the living room just looking around, you know, surveying the place, and she's like, wow, this place is fantastic. You'll see this canvas behind her, and it looks like waves, like waveforms, right? And it caught my eye immediately. I was like, oh, look, that's interesting. And then each time through the movie, when they go back to that living room, especially when things are changing, the painting changes. Well, it changes all the way through to the end, when like we're like full on chaos mode. We are getting more and more of an understanding of what's happening. Things are out of control. The painting is like a mess. It's more white than black. The wavelength, it looks like it's kind of expanded. Like if you look at like an audio wavelength, you know, you like when things are calm, it's just like a slow thing. Like you have like ups and you have peaks up and down very slow. But when things are like rapidly like frantic and all that, everything's like a jumbled mess, right? Or like a lie detector test, right? When things are like crazy like that. That's kind of what this painting looked like towards the end of the movie. So something I picked up that I thought was like a nice little like, ooh, look at that thing in the back. It's kind of like giving a visualization of what is going on right now, and I thought that was really brilliant. So if that's something you missed, you may want to go back and look at that, because I thought that was like a nice little thing to catch there in the movie. So yeah, so that is Leave the World Behind on Netflix. It just recently came out. So before we move on, obviously I want to take the time out to always thank you for tuning in and listening. If you are also on YouTube and you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel, thank you so much for catching the clip outs or whatever videos are posted on there. Truly appreciate it. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to leave a nice rating on the podcast platform you're listening on this on. And leave a comment, you know. And if anytime you want to send us a question or leave a comment, if you're on Spotify, I know you can do that through the Q&A, and then we will address it in future episodes. Also, we have an email address in the description of this video, or of this episode, I should say. where you could send us questions or comments. And again, those questions we will cover in future episodes. And shortly, we will be creating a Patreon for those of you who may want to further support this podcast. And it's a great way for us to really interact with all of you out there, because I know not a lot of you like to go to YouTube. Maybe you prefer just the audio format and all that. So through Patreon, that is going to be like a great way for us to interact with a lot of you, get more engagement, because again, we do this mainly, and I do this mainly because I love the community and I love building communities amongst passions. And the film community is something that I'm always very passionate about. So love to be able to engage more with a lot of you out there. So when that is all said and done and ready, probably in the new year, because the new year is literally like a couple of weeks away, we'll make that announcement and we'll tell you the details among the Patreon memberships and all that. And lastly, if you want to further support us, definitely a great way to do so is to check out our affiliate partners. We have a lot of partners with us right now, and you may find some of them very interesting. And if you participate and engage in any of them, we do get a small commission. We are not sponsored by any of them, so we only get commissions whenever any of you decide to partake in some of the offerings that we have. So let me take some time out to talk about some of them right now.
With internet privacy being such a huge deal these days, it's more important now than ever to protect yourself. With Surfshark VPN, you can easily hide your IP address and encrypt all data that you send and receive. You can easily switch regions to other countries in the world. This means not only your true IP address and identity is masked, it also means that you can get around any annoying geolocation locked video content. You can truly unlock the full potential of your streaming services, and for me that's important since I need to research or catch up on movies that may not always be available in my region. With Surfshark VPN, I can easily switch to any region like the UK, and this problem simply goes away. And now I can watch Hulu content directly on Disney Plus or check out some movies on Netflix that I can't otherwise watch here in the US. I also do a lot of banking and account management online, and by using Surfshark VPN, I feel extremely safe and secure doing so. Surfshark VPN also allows you to connect to unlimited devices simultaneously on a single account, and this includes Windows devices, Linux, Android, iOS, Amazon TV, and much more. To take advantage of the current Black Friday deals that they have, make sure to scan the QR code that you see on the screen now, or click on the link in the description below to secure yourself a great deal that gives you a subscription discount over 80% and up to 5 additional months for free. And if you think it sucks, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, which will give you plenty of time to try out Surfshark VPN risk-free. Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Make sure to check out the link in the description of this episode or scan the QR code you see on the screen right now and find out how you can get unlimited data for only $15 a month. Save a whole ton of money on your monthly cell phone bill without sacrificing any of the quality. No contracts to worry about, you can cancel anytime, and the transferring process is so easy. You can keep your phone number or get a new one. Need a new phone? They got you covered as well. Over a year ago, I switched from Verizon without any hesitation, and it's not just because I found Ryan Reynolds to be a sexy mother. Shut your mouth. I'm just talking about Mint Mobile, but I guarantee you if you give Mint Mobile a shot, you'll understand why I made that switch, and you too will be a happy Mint Mobile customer. So once again, check out Mint Mobile, link in the description of this episode or QR code on your screen. Check them out.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but before we continue, I wanted to quickly talk about Bulletproof Coffee. Bulletproof Coffee is my favorite coffee of choice to start off my mornings with. Why? Because it's clean coffee. What does that mean? Well, one, there are no chemicals in it. Why? Because they go through this multi-step process of making sure that all of their beans are fully clean and free of any chemicals, so that when you get the beans delivered to you, it is the pure beans, the pure coffee, the goodness that you've been wanting, the taste, the flavor, and the nutritional value as well, without worrying about any added chemicals or anything else put into the mix there. It also doesn't have that weird acidic taste that some coffees give you. I don't know how about you, but for me, some coffees kind of give me that weird sensation in my stomach, makes me a little burpy, and it kind of drags me down a little bit instead of really waking me up, which is something that I need from my coffee every day. Bulletproof also offers a lot of keto-friendly snacks and supplements, anything that you need to kind of add to your everyday nutritional needs, add to your diet, and pretty much transforms the way you feel every day. So for a limited time, if you use this code that you see on the screen right now, LOWKEY GEEK, all caps, one word, you can get 15% off your order. So what is it better than that, right? Check out the link in the description of this episode. Use this code, get yourself your discount, and make your mornings a little bit more bulletproof with Bulletproof Coffee. Now, back to the episode.
All right, again, thank you so much for bearing with us and hearing our more information on our affiliate partners there, and all of your support is greatly appreciated throughout the year as the year closes out and we embark on a brand new year for the Movie Time podcast. So thank you so much for that. So Michael Fassbender has had an interesting year this year, collaborating with two very well-known and prestigious directors today in Hollywood, and that is David Fincher and Taika Waititi. Now we'll start with, we'll keep it on the Netflix train right now, since we're on that. So when David Fincher, it was announced that Fincher and Netflix had a contract, a collaboration contract, I thought it was very interesting, because I'm so familiar with Fincher releasing movies theatrically and all that. Not saying that Netflix is not doing that with his films, but, it's a streaming service, and I was always curious how that was going to pan out. So when Fincher came out with Mank, I thought, wow, I really love this movie. So it still had the Fincher quality, which was something that I was really concerned about. And now he has The Killer with Michael Fassbender. Now, The Killer was a last-minute addition to the New York Film Festival, but it was not something that was available for me as through press credentials. So I wasn't able to see it at the time. So I had to wait until it came out on Netflix. And even when it did come out on Netflix, I was a little late to the game too because of scheduling. But when I finally got to see it, I watched it back in November, mid-November. I was like, wow, this is a fascinating movie. It is one of those movies that kind of gives a certain point of view of a contract killer that is not something we've seen before. Now, we've seen movies like this before with Leon, the Professional, right? And other movies I can't really recall at the moment. But it's one of those interesting premises where, well, what if a contract killer makes a mistake and botches a contract? What are the ramifications of it? And for someone who's the character that Michael Fassbender plays is very meticulous, very careful and precise with everything, down to what he wears, down to how he moves, down to, how he sleeps. Very, very meticulous. And he messes up. And how does he react after that? Because obviously, if you're a contract killer and you mess up, there are ramifications. And now there's a bounty on his head, and the contract that he signed, that owner of the contract, now wants him gone. Because he knows too much. All the usual shit. And the movie meticulously, like our character, goes through all the process and steps that are now following Fassbender's kind of life, as he now has to go and kill the owner of the contract, who is trying to take him out. Very fascinating, and in a very Fincher-like way, very, very intriguing as far as the storyline's concerned, the editing, the soundtrack, the fact that this character loves listening to the Smiths. Oh my God, it's almost like this movie was made for me. Because I remember back in high school, I was huge into the Smiths, huge into Morrissey. And I remember every time I needed to, like, I don't know, drown my sorrows, or, you're a teenager, you go through a lot of ups and downs. The Smiths was my choice. Morrissey was my choice. Very melodramatic, very, sad, sorrow, all those type of songs. It reminds me of 500 Days of Summer, when, the Smiths was like a main point in that movie. This was that times 10, right? Because every time he prepared himself for a job, or every time he got himself in the mood, pop in his earbuds, and there he goes. There you hear the Smiths playing. And it's so fascinating. But yeah, it's like, everyone has a bad day. And here's this guy, he had a bad day. And now he has to deal with it. And I thought Fassbender was peak Fassbender. Like, this is like acting, like, this is the Fassbender I've been wanting to see more of, really, to be honest with you. And I'm glad we saw it. I'm glad he collaborated with Fincher. But everything was brilliant. And Tilda Swinton is in this, but very briefly. And she has this conversation with him back and forth that is so... You can't take your eyes off the screen. I mean, Tilda Swinton is Tilda Swinton. She's, like, fantastic. But the one great thing about this movie is that it's relatable. Again, it puts you in a position where it's like, go back and think about the last time you had a really bad day, right? And what you had to deal with it, and how you had to deal with it, or you did something bad at work, and there were certain ramifications. Like, how did you deal with it, right? Everyone can relate to this guy, except when we have a bad day, rarely is there someone out there to kill us because of that bad day, right? And here he is, dealing with that fact. But it was so much fun to watch. It was a lot of fun. And, again, if you're a fan of Fincher, you're familiar with this type of filmmaking. This reminded me a lot of, like, Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. Maybe a little bit of Seven, but not so much. But more like Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, which I think is an underrated Fincher film. I'm going to say that right now. That is a film that not a lot of people talk about when it comes to, like, the Fincher filmography. Especially, I guess, because of the stigma with it all. The fact that it was never able to be continued. It was constantly being compared to the international version of that series that came out. All that stuff. But it is, for me, one of my favorite Fincher films. So I had a lot of those kind of vibes. But I really, really enjoyed it. It's a great watch. It's not that long on Netflix. It's definitely worth watching. And like I said, Fassbender, this is the type of acting I love seeing coming out of Fassbender. Unlike what we saw in Next Goal Wins, which leads me to the next film that Fassbender did with Taika Waititi this year. Next Goal Wins. Now, I like Taika Waititi, and I like his films. There are, Jojo Rabbit is still one of the best films I think he's ever done. And he's a funny dude. But I wonder if his form of humor or comedy is wearing on me a bit. With his Thor movies, I was a little like, I don't know. Like the humor is a little bit too much for me now. I'm a little bit tired of this type of humor. It's a little bit too much over the top. I love it when he does combine humor with drama. That's why Jojo Rabbit is fantastic, in my opinion. And the Thor Ragnarok I thought was very good. But I think that's also because he didn't write that movie. But with Next Goal Wins, it was just a little bit too much of that humor again. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of the movie was very touching, heartwarming, but familiar. I've seen movies like this already before. You know, you could name so many different films that are very similar to this, that it's not that, surprising. Major League. I think in my Letterboxd review, I named a good amount of films that this pretty much reminded me of. Major League is one of them. Any Given Sunday, The Longest Yard, Dodgeball, the 1992 Rodney Dangerfield Ladybugs. A lot of these, it has share very similar themes and kind of premises, right? So it didn't feel new. But with that being said, this did have one element in it that I thought was very heartwarming. And the team has a transgender player. And I love how the team accepts them and really rallies around them, and how they became a very centric character in the film. So I loved, and it's based off of a real person. This team is based off of a real team. So the real story behind it all is very touching and heartwarming and very, very uplifting. And I love watching that. And I think, if anything, Taika Waititi did a very good job at maintaining that. The essence and spirit behind the original team. The people behind it all. I think Taika did a really good job at that. I will say that. It is a very fun movie because of that. And it did get a good amount of laughs from me. The glaring weak point, unfortunately, is Michael Fassbender. And I hate saying that, but he's not built for comedy. No, I don't think so. I thought watching his performance, I thought it was very awkward and very off. And it kind of, at times, sometimes cringy. And I know his character is supposed to be kind of like someone who lost his way in life, kind of does the bare minimum, kind of lost his spirit and everything. And, again, we've seen this type of character many times before. And he does portray that type of character, very gruff and all that. But just because, I don't know what it is, but Fassbender's own persona, even though he is an actor trying to portray this type of character, it just didn't mesh. It didn't work. It didn't correlate somehow for me. And at times, whenever he was on screen, it took me out, to be honest. It felt fake. It really, truly felt fake. So because of that, the movie itself wasn't like it. I gave it a 3 out of 4 stars on Letterboxd. Oh, and the Fincher movie, I gave it 4 out of 5. I thought it was really, really good. But this one did suffer for me. Like I suffered watching through this because of Fassbender's performance and because of the Taika humor. It was a little bit over the top. Plus, you're in freaking Samoa, right? Why does everyone sound freaking like they're Australian or from New Zealand? Everyone has like that Kiwi accent, the New Zealand accent. And I know I'm combining the two on purpose. I'm just trying to be silly and sarcastic. But that also is just like, what? Why does everyone talk like they're from New Zealand? Why do I feel like I'm watching an episode of Flight of the Conchords? So that was kind of really bizarre. That was an interesting creative choice. And of course, Taika has to put himself in the movie too. And he plays this kind of like over the top priest, trying to get the laughs and all that. And I don't know, it didn't work for me. But in the audience I was in, it worked quite a bit for a lot of people. And like I said, there are moments in the film that I did get a chuckle out of, that I did laugh at. But overall, it's one of those unfortunate things that this is one of those movies that when watching the trailer, I remember like, I want to see that movie because it looks like it could be both hilarious and heartwarming. I was right about the heartwarming part. Not so right about the humor and the funny part. But yeah, Fassbender, not a hit on this one for me. So it's interesting how I praised his performance in The Killer, and then we fast forward and now we have this movie with Next Goal Wins. So that's my take on the Fassbender 1-2 punch there. So there you have it. But that's gonna be it for me and for this week of Movie Time. Shorter than usual episode, but I think I talked quite a bit about some things here. So hopefully you found it entertaining, informative, and enjoyable to listen to. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, apologies for the delay of uploading this episode, and sorry that Blake couldn't join us this week. Hope to have him again back in the next episode. But as we wrap things up, don't forget you could find myself, the Low-Key Geek, on Letterboxd, Instagram, Twix, most importantly, YouTube. If you want to check out clip outs or anything that we do there on the YouTube channel, make sure to check out Low-Key Geek there on YouTube. And of course, through the platform that you're listening to us on, podcast format. Don't forget, leave a good rating if you haven't done so yet. Participate in the Q&A if it is available to you. Or feel free to check out that email address in the description of this episode. Shoot us a comment or a question so that we can address it in a future episode. And again, we thank you so much for all of your support. Don't forget to check out our affiliate partners if you feel inclined to want to help support the channel even more so. Greatly appreciate all of that. So, all that out of the way, this has been Movie Time. I've been Renee. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. Catch you all in the next one. All right, bye-bye, everyone. Peace out. Bye.